Welcome back to Backstage Pass Rock News. Foreigner fans, this one's for you. The legendary Lou Gramm, the original voice of Foreigner, recently sat down with our own Paul Stevenson of Backstage Pass Rock News. In a candid interview, Lou explains the real reason why he left the band. Buckle up, because it's about to get interesting.
What was it that prompted your decision at that point to decide that it was time for you to go solo and to do your own thing?
Well, it was a couple of things. It was mostly because I didn't like the direction that the band had been going for the last couple of albums. Mick seemed to be incredibly enamored with all the new keyboards that had been coming out, and he heard all the great keyboard players, the rock keyboard players, using new sounds and stuff like that, and he went out and bought all the modern new keyboards and would stay up nights playing with the sounds, and thereby the songs he wrote were keyboard songs, and we would learn them, and I would sing them and this and that, and at the 11th hour he would put a little guitar part on it, but most of the album was based around keyboards, and I told him face to face, I says we're going to lose our rock audience. He says because although this has a rock beat and such and such, being a keyboard song does not sit well with fans who began following Foreigner as a guitar-driven rock band. Not only do they not care for the keyboards, but a lot of the keyboard songs were ballads. After we had the hit with Waiting for a Girl Like You, next album was I Want to Know What Love Is. Next album after that was I Don't Want to Live Without You. And those albums were laced with ballads or mid-tempo songs that could pass for ballads. And I started to dislike being involved in the band. We would do live shows, and we would start out with the first, second, and third albums and have the place rocking, and 3/4 of the way through the set, they'd be falling asleep, or you could sense the restlessness because they just weren't that interested, even though the songs were modest hits. That's not what the crowd came for. And after one of the tours, Mick decided to take a break. He was frazzled. So he and his wife went for a worldwide cruise. It took over 6 months.
Wow.
Okay. And I can remember Dennis saying, we should be working on a new album. What are we supposed to do while you take the cruise? And he says, relax. He says, just relax and enjoy yourselves. And I'm thinking to myself, I am going to enjoy myself. And all the songs that I had started to write or had written already, saving them up for a rainy day. And I'll give you an example. My bass player, Bruce Turgan, also played really good rhythm guitar. And he helped me with the chords on Midnight Blue. To get them to sound as good as they did, and while I had that earmarked for my solo album, Foreigner was getting ready to do an album, and I asked Bruce to come in with me. That's before Bruce was the bass player at Foreigner. I asked him to come in with me and help me play that song for Mick as an idea for the new album. So he had his acoustic guitar, he played the chords, and I sang a verse and a chorus, and the rest of the guys in the band are going like this, and Mick's going, oh, he goes, pretty good. He goes, let me see the guitar. And so Bruce gave him the guitar, and he tried to figure out the chords and the voicings. And you could see he was getting frustrated. And Bruce took the guitar and showed him the fingering and stuff like that. That didn't help the situation. That got him enraged. somebody was showing him. And he goes, well, he says, it's pretty good. He says, let's forget that though. And I'm thinking to myself, let's forget that. And I says, okay. And so after whatever the Foreigner album was that came out after that's when he took his cruise. And I had enough songs to do my own album. And I went to Atlantic with demos and told them that I wanted to do my own album. Mick was going to be gone for almost a year. I wanted to do my own album. These are the songs I plan on recording. Can you give me a budget and let me get started? And they did. And I did. And my album came out, and I was opening for Steve Miller on a tour.
Yep.
Okay. After about the third week that I was on tour with Steve, after my set, I was in the dressing room, and somebody said, "Lou, telephone call for you." And it was Mick. He goes, "Lou, how's things?" I says, "Things are great, Mick. How was your voyage?" He says, "It was great." He says, "It was really restful. It did a lot." He says, "But he says, I'm all nerved up again." I says, "Why?" He says, "As soon as I go," he says, "you go out and do your own thing." I says, "I'm still a member of Foreigner." I says, "I didn't want to sit around doing nothing. I had songs. I wanted to do them in a way that I saw fit and release them on Atlantic, our label, so that I, as a songwriter and an artist, could grow outside of Foreigner." I says, "Is that wrong?" And he wouldn't answer me. He says, "Well," he says, "if you want to be a part of this band, you better drop your part of the tour and come back. We're starting to record." So I did. And that was the album that I had little to no input in as a songwriter. That wasn't Agent Provocateur. That was inside information. If you look on the credits of the album, I think I'm in on about 2 or 3 out of 10 songs.
So obviously you had some huge hits on your own steam, the likes of Midnight Blue, as you mentioned, and Just Between You and Me, both top 10 hits in America. I mean, you've been part of a big band for such a long time. So how was it having these hits under your own steam, under your own name then?
Very satisfying. Very satisfying. And I co-produced those too. And was a co-writer too. And it felt just awesome to be able to do what I knew I could do for so many years and not having the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure Atlantic gave me the support that I thought they should have.
Okay.
Because as soon as Midnight Blue broke into the top 5, I had friends in Atlantic Records, the offices there, and one of them called me and he says, "I'm saying this under anonymity." He said, "Mick just had a big meeting with Ahmet Ertegun. That's the chairman of Warner's." And the gist of the meeting was that if Lou's solo album reaches a very popular stage, he'll never come back to Foreigner. That's what Mick told Ahmet. So suddenly, after Midnight Blue, the next song that came out was I can't remember what it was, but it was Ready or Not. It was the title track. And it did okay. And then the third single disappeared after 2 weeks. They didn't promote it. They didn't promote it because Mick told them that he was sure I would come back to the band if the album didn't do well. But if it did really good, then I'd be gone forever. So after a big promotion for Midnight Blue, suddenly there was less and less and less. And in 1997, I called Atlantic Records. I just wanted to see what the sales numbers were for the Ready or Not album. And they said it was 991,000 copies. Okay, so I was 9,000 away from being platinum.
Yep.
10 years later, I called again. It was 996,000. So in 10 years, it sold 5,000. And I said, I'm getting a pile of shit here. This is not right. So I didn't look anymore. I didn't ask anymore. I knew that I wasn't getting the truth from anybody.
That's incredibly difficult. So obviously you've spoken about being with Mick and things like that. I mean, how are things between the two of you in recent years? Have you spoken in the last few years at all, or has it been completely silence between you two for a long time?
It was silence after I left the band, and then when we got into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, when I saw him and he saw me, we hugged each other, and so good to see you. It's been a long time. Blah 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 blah. We had lunch, stuff like that, and then we, at the performance, we congratulated each other and this and that, and we performed a couple songs on stage with a backup group, and everything was nice. Then all the Atlantic people were there, and we went over and took pictures with everybody. Yeah. From the office and all that stuff. It was all smiles and hugs and everything. And after that night, never heard from him again. Never heard from him again.
So it'd be interesting to see what happens if you do get into the Rock Hall and how all that goes down again then between everybody.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'll be friendly and cordial, but I'm not going to be like I found my long lost brother or anything,
That's a shame. I mean, obviously you guys have had such success together. You shared such a long time together, and everything that goes on with being in a band and being so close and under each other's feet for such a long time. That must be difficult looking back on all that and thinking how things were.
It's very difficult because we worked our tails off together, writing most of those songs and I think we were the focal part of the band too. So the live show was very important. And stuff, and I thought we had a very good friendship during most of those years, But after that, I Want to Know What Love thing happened. It was different. We barely spoke to each other on tour, even. Now I knew that what he did to me, he was wrong and he was dishonest, and he made a fortune and I made nothing. And got no credit from my peers or anybody, It's that Mick Jones magic touch. Look, he did it again. I want to know what love is.